Hello everybody, this is VG Time back again with another deck profile, and this time we're looking at what I consider to be one of the best budget decks that a player could build, especially if they want to have something that's fairly competitive and is going to give them a good chance of beating their friends around the table, winning at the locals, or even taking to some small events like store championships and being successful. That deck is Agents of Destruction. This deck gained a lot of support in the anniversary box by giving it a leader that helped with the strategy and giving it a lot of powerful battle cards that allows it to be able to swarm the field while controlling your opponent's plays. Now, because of the way this whole thing works, there's a lot of various ways you could build it. My way is built a little different than most, but still, I think you'll enjoy it quite a bit. And as I've been doing recently with my deck profiles, you can also catch me on Thursday where I'll be playing it in my online local. So you can see exactly how the deck plays, how powerful it is in comparison to other decks and so forth. So let's get into it. Bobbity has a permanent that makes it so that Agents of Destruction cards do not have specified costs. That's very powerful because, again, the cards are in all different colors. If you had to worry about charging the proper cards and energy, you would just not be able to do what you need to do. It has an auto to be able to swing, choose up to one of your life added to your hand, and then top 5 search for a card with Agents of Destruction in its name. So that is pretty good as well because it gives you self-awakening when you want it, as well as top 5 search, which for the most part in this deck is far better than just drawing a card. It awakens when you're at 4 or less life, and when you do, you flip it over, and you become Majin Buu, leader of the Agents of Destruction. This is a version of Majin Buu that absorbed Bobbity, and so that's why he has the cool cape and the whole setup right there. So anyway, he has the same permanent as the front side, but he has 2 activate mains instead of having an ability to get cards. So what a lot of players like to do is stay on the front side as long as possible before they get to the back. I play it, similar to that depending on the matchup, but usually I try to get to the back as quickly as possible. And the reason being is that the activate main to be able to play an Agent of Destruction with a cost of 2 or less for free from your hand. That's once per turn, but all these guys have really cool come into play abilities, which then you could use to deal with threats on your opponent's side of the table or help you recycle your cards and things like that. Then it has an activate main where you pay 3, and when you pay that 3, you could play an Agent of Destruction Unison from your hand into play with 3 markers on it. So now that we know what the leader does, let's get into the rest of the deck. So the key card to the deck, the card that you have to see on turn 1 in order for the deck to be able to function properly, is Bobbity, Overseer Destruction. This guy right here has the same effect as a leader as far as removing specified costs, but he also reduces the cost of them by 1. The balancing trade-off is that he is unique, but he does have barrier. So unless they have some form of early barrier removal, he's going to basically sit out there for most games to be able to help you to churn out advantage. Our card advantage engine is 4 copies of Turles Chaotic Agent of Destruction. He has unique and barrier, but when he attacks, he has the same effect as the leader front side, where you get to look at the top 5 and add an Agent of Destruction to your hand. So it's best to be able to protect this card as much as possible. Now continue with the blue, which this deck is heavily focused in towards. We have Janemba, Wicked Agent of Destruction. We usually do hard cast this guy, that's why we go kind of heavy on blue. He has a +1 where he could swing with critical, which is very good early on in the game. He has a ±0 where you could draw a card and your opponent draws a card and mills a card. You don't really use that too much. And then he has a -2 that if your opponent has 15 or less cards in the deck, he becomes a 30k triple striker. That is Actually, it comes up because of Vegex existing and because of Dark Broly existing. Both of those decks mill themselves pretty hard. Once you get to around turn 4, may not have a lot of cards left in their deck. And in that case, you could use that ability and take advantage of it. But the main reason why we play him is because we want to have access to 4 copies of SS Trunks God Sealing Technique. This guy right here allows us to pitch him from your hand as long as you have a blue unison with 2 or more counters on it to counterplay a battle card and return it to his owner's hands. But you're locked out of counterplays for the turn. What's great about him over a lot of the other ones is that he does not have a cost restriction or a power restriction or anything like that. He just works on it as long as it doesn't have deflect. Continuing with the blue, we played 4 copies of Senzu Bean. In this deck, Senzu Bean is equivalent to giving you 1 to 2 extra battle cards on the table. So as long as you have a bean, you can keep pushing and keep putting more pressure on your opponent if that's what the game calls for. And then lastly, we have 2 copies of Newwst Coercion as our blue support. I wanted a negate in blue, and this right here does the job and negates the attack and untaps an energy. I know a lot of people are worried about the cycle for Draft Box 6, which punish cards like this, but honestly, if you see it come out early or whatever, you can just charge it. You need the blue energy anyway. So now we're going to get into the Agents of Destruction cards. Probably the most important card in this deck besides the Turles is the Agent of Destruction Strikes Back. This card right here, once I establish a turn 1 Babidi, on that same turn, I get to play it because it has a permanent where it gains the name Agents of Destruction, not name, but the type Agent of Destruction in all areas. So Babidi reduces it by 1. The leader or in Babidi makes it so it doesn't have specified cost, so you get to play it for free. Its activate main effect is that you get to reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. You get to add all copies of cards with Agents of Destruction in his name to your hand. That includes itself, and you get to add up to 1 of your life to your hand. So early in the game, it could be a draw 3 for 0 energy. At the worst, it's a 1-for-1, and usually it's a pot of greed. Next up, we have Hatchiyak, Vengeful Agent of Destruction. Hatchiyak acts as copies 5 through 8 of Babidi, so that way you have a good chance of opening them. Hatchiyak also has a great auto in his own respect. When he comes into play, you're able to warp one of your opponent's battle cards with cost 4 or less, then choose 3 of their battle cards in their drop area and put it on the bottom of their deck. That might not seem that crazy or powerful, but when you consider that you can play him for free on the backside of the leader, or that he only costs 2 for the most part, you realize why that is very strong. We played 3 copies of Broly, Invincible Agent of Destruction. This guy is also incredibly powerful. His activate main allows you to pay 1, pitch him from your hand, to return from your drop area any card with Agents of Destruction in his name. So that includes the unisons in the deck, the battle cards, the extra card, and just return it to your hand. It comes up, but you mainly play him for his auto ability, which says that you pop a 5-drop or less on your opponent's side when you play him. And then you get to look at the top 3 cards, add any card from among them to your hand, and the other 2 go to the drop. So you don't have to show your opponent that card or anything, and it helps you get some of the other utilities such as the God Sealing, the Senzu Beans, the Newwst Coercion, etc. We have Android 13, Exterminating Agent of Destruction. This card right here is outrageous and probably my favorite card in the deck. So what it does is it counterplays 3 drops or less. And not only does it counterplay and keep it from coming into play, but it also makes your opponent discard the card. And that's all part of the counterplay effect. Then it's auto when it comes into play. You get to shuffle 2 Agent of Destruction battle cards from your drop area or Evil Wizard cards. So you can even shuffle back Babidis if need be to your deck. So that makes it so that as the game goes on, you're gonna still have cards in your deck to get off a tier list. You're gonna still have cards in your deck to get off your extra card. You can still put the extra card back into your deck, things like that. Another very powerful card is 4 copies of Garlic Jr. Immortal Agent of Destruction. This guy right here is your counter attack. He's also your easiest way to spam your board, but his counter attack is of course negate the attack, but his auto on play says to add from your deck to the field an Agent Destruction with a cost of 2. So you could get the Android 13, you could get the Turles, and you could get the next card, which is Lord Slug, Mighty Agent of Destruction. This is your super combo, or at least one of them. He has unique in the ability that if your opponent counterplays, activates a counterplay, they have to pitch 2 cards from their hand. So it taxes your opponent for trying to stop your plays. There's certain matchups where the play might be to establish this on 1, make this on 2 into this, and then on a follow-up turn, just start making your plays and making your opponent not really want to counterplay what you're doing. And lastly, for agents, we have our big finisher, which is Vegeta, Resolute Agent of Destruction. This is our second unison. It's the one that we typically pay 3 energy on our leader backside to play. Amazing auto, pitch a card from your hand, destroy all battle cards on your opponent's side of the field, ignoring barrier. He has double strike and crit, and a +1 that allows him to go up to 25 double strike crit, which again is insane. And then he has a -5 that if your leader is the Agent of Destruction, or if all your energy is green, which comes up if you try to play this in green strategies, you could choose 3 cards from your opponent's hand and make them discard it. So those 3 cards are at random. I could tell you from guarding various things, your opponent shouldn't have that many cards in hand, so an effect like that should be game breaking. We played 2 copies of Master Roshi Strict Instructor. This is because we get to 4 life very easily, and I wanted to have a super combo that draws a card. So Lord Slug doesn't draw any cards. He's always 0-10k, which is good, but so is this guy. And this guy will draw you a card, which helps you get 2 other cards in the deck. And then lastly, 2 copies of Power Burst. So we run a total of 8 negates in the deck. It's not really 8 negates because sometimes we just play this guy. And if we're just playing this guy, we still need to have some way of negating. Power Burst allows us to do it through sparking. We do not have any targets to get back off of Power Burst in the main deck, but we do on the side deck, which I don't really go into my side deck, so they change based upon whatever your meta is going to be. But like you could put Dark Power Black Mass Saiyans in the deck, and then if they get rid of it, you can Power Burst to get them back, things like that. But having the spark in the gate I think is important in most decks, especially decks that can fill up the draw barrier like this one does. So there we go. Agents of Destruction, 50 cards, pretty straightforward. And you'll see me on Thursday playing it right here on this channel at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So until then, this is VG Time, signing out.